Okay, welcome back to the Penn State Blitz on Penn Live. Greg Pickle, we talked about Chicago, we talked about Big Ten Media Days a little bit earlier. Now it's time to talk about some recruiting. Penn State is doing very well as they continue to build this class, but there's still two names to watch for on the recruiting radar. Very soon there's going to be some announcements.
Yeah, so we'll start with Saleem Wormley. He's the first one. It'll be announcing July 23rd for him, so we're getting close to that time. Rutgers, Notre Dame, Penn State on the short list for him. Unless somebody comes in and makes a surprise play, Bob, I think Penn State's a front runner here. They need another guard in this class. Some outlets have him as a 4-star at this point, so he's well regarded in the evaluation community. So I think Penn State gets a good one here. They have Caden Wallace already in the class. They're going to look for a couple more. But again, that's on July 23rd. We'll have to wait and see. But Big Ten Media Days could start with a bang for Penn State before James Franklin even gets to the podium. Then on August 1st, Michael Johnson Jr., the quarterback out of Oregon, 4-star. He's going to pick between Penn State, Oregon State, Miami, Florida State, Florida, and some others, and the Lions are in the leader in that one as well. So long way to go there. He could maybe sneak onto a couple college campuses once the dead period ends next week before that decision. But right now it looks like Penn State could easily go 2 for 2.
Yeah, so that would mean if he would verbally commit, that would be 2 quarterbacks in the class, right, which is something that I think James Franklin always wants, even if it doesn't work out. Right. And also, you said Oregon State. You did not say Oregon. So he's not even considering the school that his dad is the coach on the staff.
Yeah, I think it's pretty mutual at this point. I think that they sort of know the direction they want to go at quarterback. He knows what direction he wants to go for his school, and they don't really align. So,
okay, 4th down now here on the Penn State Blitz. Questions, comments, concerns, anything? Would you like to know anything about Chicago before we go out there?
Yeah.
I know you've been out there before, but I'm just trying to make sure you get to the right spots.
That's right.
At the right time. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them, and the fans as well.
All right, we'll get to Chicago in a second. Let's start first with Penn State football. When you look at the upcoming stretch here, Bob, you're going to hear a lot from Penn State football personnel at Big Ten Media Days and then at Team Media Days. What's an off-the-radar thing you're watching for that maybe it's not the focus, it's not Trace McSorley, it's not Ricky Ronnie, it's not Saquon Barkley. What are you looking for out there that might be a little bit off the radar, or something that's going to impact this 2018 season that just most aren't thinking about?
I'm going to be asking some people out there in Chicago about Sharif Miller, some of the players he's faced last year. You know, the Iowa game comes to mind. Their quarterback, I believe, is going to be there. Kirk Ferentz will be there. I do think that even though his numbers were just okay last year, he had 11 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. They're not great numbers. I think that he was kind of a nightmare to game plan for, and I'm just curious if some other people in the Big Ten feel the same way as I do about Sharif Miller.
All right, question 2, Bob, here on the Penn State Blitz. And we talked about this earlier this week, youtube.com/allpennstate. You can find the video there. Are people locally overhyping Trace McSorley's outlook ahead of this season? Everywhere you look, if you read the Penn State media, he's termed a Heisman hopeful. We both talked about the idea of him not being on Dennis Dodd's CBS Sports top 10 returning quarterback list. Is crazy. So where do you fall? Is he being overhyped locally, or is he being underrated nationally? Which one do you think is how do you think people are actually viewing Trace? Where's the middle ground going into this season?
I think most experts or most football writers, national football writers, know that he's a good player. He's been around. He's a veteran. He's played well in some games. He played well against Michigan last year. He didn't have a great game against Ohio State, I didn't think. And I do think that people want to see a little bit more from him. I think he has another level to get to. I think he can do a lot. It's going to be dependent upon how the offense kind of develops around him. When you don't have Mike Gesicki in the red zone and you can't throw to Saquon Barkley out of the backfield, I mean, I would imagine teams are going to try and take Juwan Johnson away from him, force him to make some plays with his feet. DeAndre Tompkins has to step up if a young receiver like Justin Shorter emerges a little bit, and if Tommy Stevens kind of becomes more of a focal point of the offense, I think it'll make Trace's life a lot easier. But I think ultimately, Trace and the Heisman, I think a lot of it's going to be decided when Penn State hosts Ohio State in late September. That's one team that he's played okay against, even in the 2016 game. It wasn't really about the Penn State offense. It was about the special teams and the defense in the second half. I think he has to have a good game against Ohio State. If he does, I think he's going to be on a very short list. I don't think we're overstating like his abilities. I do think though he still has. There's going to have to be a big, I think, moment for him against Ohio State. Then look out.
All right, question and final question here on the Penn State Blitz number 3, Bob. It is watch list season. Everybody's nominating everybody for anything. 90 seconds or less. Favorite Chicago bar to drink. favorite Chicago bar to eat.
Goodness.
And the one place that is overrated that everyone seems to love and or go to.
Oh, boy. Are they going to watch this in Chicago?
That's right.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, I like Mother's, which is Mark Brennan's favorite spot.
That's right.
You know, I just don't think the food's that great. Hopefully only people, you know, east of Chicago are listening to this, because I think Mother might remember this and hold it against me. But I do like Pequod's. I know that you've had some very interesting experiences at Pequod's for deep dish
sure
pizza.
have. Yes.
And the Billy Goat Tavern, to me, I think that's what Chicago's all about. It's a neat location. They're kind of very set in their ways, but I like to go. The history of Chicago is really on the walls with the newspaper articles, and there's not a lot of places, Greg, where you can get Schlitz on tap.
That's right.
And so for me, it's a must-visit place whenever you're in Chicago. And then we're gonna have a nice little stint at Arlington Park in Arlington Heights after Big Ten Media Day. So. Yeah, I'm going to try and get a lot of sleep in the next 24 to 72 hours, because I know next week it's going to be fun but taxing.
All right. Well, pro tip on the Billy Goat Tavern. Remember, if you're using your phone to navigate, it's going to tell you that you're on top of the Billy Goat Tavern. You're not, so keep that in mind. But Bob, send us on out of here. It's another edition of the Penn State Blitz in the books.
I know, that's it. And we'll see you guys from Chicago next week.
That's right.